Syria is a huge obstacle to any colonizer's plans. The state has a terrible, great historical momentum. No matter how much you know history, you cannot estimate the size of Syria in history. It has been the arena of conflict between world powers since time immemorial. I mean, between opportunity and the Romans, for example, the Romans prevailed in the lowest land, and most of them will prevail at the beginning of the years. The Romans prevailed, and the victory of the Romans in this land, in the land of the Levant, in the land of Syria and Palestine, the region is extremely sensitive with regard to history, in which there were various battles between the Romans and Muslims after that, after the end of the stage of the Persians and Romans in leading the world. Muslims emerged as a very big rising star, then after being the first star. Countless wars on Syrian soil, in Damascus, in Aleppo, in Homs, in Hama, everywhere bear witness to these fierce battles. Between the Crusaders and the Muslims, Syria witnessed huge big battles between the Tatars and the Muslims, huge big battles between Western colonialism and the Muslims, which means an arena of clash, even between the Muslims themselves, which means a lot between the Tulunites and the Abbasid state, between the Tulunites and the Qashdids, between the Fatimids and the Ashdod or others means Karmata, between the Mamluks and the Ottoman Empire, all on the land of Syria. History bears witness to this subject, their Torah, their Gospel, our Quran and the Sunnah of our Prophet. May God bless him and grant him peace. All testify to the sanctity of this place, a blessed land. Everyone acknowledges this subject. This is a blessed land. This is the goodness of God Almighty in His land. Its situation is very distinguished. It is the land of great epics in the past, great epics recently, and great epics in the future. Even the future means that the messenger, peace and blessings be upon him, read to us the future and mention the major epics that will come in the future, many of them on the land of Syria. Therefore, its remaining one block represents a very, very big obstacle to the aggressors. History as well as the country testifies that it remains weak and strong when it divides. History has witnessed many such divisions, which means unfortunately the Syrian region is also divisible. The idea historically exists and has been applied a lot. We were seeing something called the Emirate of Damascus, the Emirate of Aleppo, the Emirate of Homs, the Emirate of Hama, even the Emirate of Caesar, a small country, the Emirate of Latakia and the Emirate of Banias. I mean, small cities. It is possible for an independent construction worker to remain separate from others. This, of course, causes weakness of the entity. For this reason, any Muslim leader who has a desire for pride and victory and has a clash in all of history, meaning he bears witness to this issue, was seeking to unify Syria. Syria must remain one block. Make the Danzenki hour in this direction. Nur al-Din Mahmoud, Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, al-Zahir paper is another king. As-Salih Najm al-Din Ayyub, the entire history of all stages of clashes with the Crusaders, with the Tatars and others, sought a convergence. The leader initially wanted to unify Syria, and then the unification expanded to other regions. That's why enemies never love Syria, no matter how submissive words you hear. We want a united Syria. We want Syria to be undivided. This is talk, but the reality is completely different from this topic. I feel that in recent months, the last 678 months, the smell of division has begun to smell strongly from the land of Syria. We ask God Almighty for peace and well-being. I think the issue is lifting sanctions on Syria. This is the opposite. If you divide Syria, they do not say it frankly, or they may say it frankly and we do not. I'm not listening. I mean, behind the scenes, it's possible to rely openly, but the purpose is to bring about division and weaken Syria. In order to remain in the end shabby to such an extent that it is unable to gather, Syria will weaken all the conditions that the Americans, the Jews or others will place on Syria in order to lift the sanctions and in order to remove the names from the lists of terrorism, etc. Its goals will be to weaken Syria, weaken Syria. Syria must not have any power left, neither military nor political, and no power, even spiritual or social. differentiate as much as they can, so that in the end they can achieve the great goal, which is division, the division of Syria. I am saying that in recent months I have been stinking with the smell of division. In recent days the smell has increased very, very much and turned into an almost reality. The real events of Sweida lead to such a horrific matter. The issue of the division of Syria, the events of Sweida. Sweida, of course, has a Druze intensity. The Druze are known in it, and they are loyal with the utmost frankness, clarity and arrogance to the Jews. I mean, there is no issue that they do not hide. This issue was very, very normal cooperation between two partners. Incomprehensible events that occurred in Sweida led to an escalation that was also incomprehensible, and the number of killers is something that attracts attention. The whole world hears that there are events in Sweida, not one or two people die, and there must be a number. This number is accompanied by a second, by attracting to me the forces that did not govern the country at that time, the army and the police, to come to this issue with the Druze declaration that we are peaceful. A call to lay down arms and a call to unite with the rest of the factions in Syria. This is what they announced at the beginning as if it were a lure. Why does he want to bring the army and police to him in Sweida? He wants to answer them because of the next step after that. As for them, he comes to withdraw Hikmah al-Hajri, who is the leader of the Druze sect in Syria, withdraws his statement and comes out to speak. Very strange words that tell you, by God, we have been pressured. Pressure has been exerted on us from foreign countries and we have been exposed because we say a humiliating statement. The Syrian leadership faces challenges unprecedented before. Guys, I'm sorry, I withdrew what I was saying about this peaceful issue. Put down the weapon, go back and remove the weapon again. Like that, with the utmost clarity and frankness. The income of the army and the police will be, and they will turn against them. The Druze, because there is a civil war in this area, they lie more and more to the eyes of the world and the eyes of the Jews. Printed in agreement with the Jews mostly means. The police and the army entered. Nearly 2 or 1 police and army died in this very short time. I mean, those who died among them were more than those who died among the Druze and those who died among the civilians who were outside the lessons in the region. I mean, they say something and 70 or something and 80 Druze died. 55 civilians, the army and the police died, including nearly 2 dead. What are the events do you like more? Then after that we find the Jews moving them. Bombing of Syria's dwindling tank forces provides a direct challenge. How many tanks were favored for them after the destruction they did in Sham against the Jews for most of the Syrian army? Fadel was no more than how many tanks? When they descended on Sweida, they hit Fadel's tanks and then escalated more and more and hit the Syrian General Staff Command in Damascus. Because in the end you have no solution. You are withdrawing, otherwise we will shout to the army, those who are present, and the police, those who are present, a state, and the decision will be taken to withdraw. At the same time, the leader of the Druze, who is present in Israel, comes out with the utmost frankness and clarity. We agreed with Netanyahu and we agreed with Katz, the Minister of Defense, that no, the Druze relatives cannot benefit without protecting those who are in Syria, and we must move. We are coordinating with them to move to protect the Druze. With the Jews, we are coordinating to protect the Druze in Syria, and there is also news of the infiltration of some Druze from the Golan into Syria. Some Druze who have Israeli citizenship inside the Golan asked him inside Syria to cooperate with the other Druze in the situation and so on, and of course the army and police are forced to withdraw from the region, hiding a nostalgia that they have nothing to do. They resort to the west and the east in order to stop the continuous Israeli bombing, and the islands of lifting sanctions exist, and the islands of removing names from the terrorist lists exist in order to accept more and more concessions until normalization takes place, which may be by giving up the Golan or other humiliating conditions. I mean, this is a situation. What will happen in the end? In the other, the compassionate international community will often intervene. Western powers and their allies pressure the situation further. In order to spare Syria from discord and conflict, They exfoliate Sweida as a state for lessons in which Sweida lives with even Dara or Dara, all with part of the Golan and part of the Damascus countryside, and they create such a small state which is enough for the Druze in the Syria group. God is sufficient for believers. That's it. There's nothing after that. A war at the same time, we may encounter the same escalations occurring in the Kurdish region. And the Druze Sheikh, by the way, says that we demand that. Syria is not exposed to the Kurds. Are you the owner? Ha ha ha. Glory be to God. You do not meet them ideologically, nor do you meet them intellectually, nor do you meet them geographically. They are in the northeast and you are in the south. But it is an agitation that will agitate the Kurds if they too take action and create a state. In the eastern Shaman, at the same time, the Alawites in the northwest were doing so, and thus it became. We have a very clear possibility of division, and the result means hoping to lift the sanctions. So lift the sanctions, and that's it until the country expects it. The situation is very, very difficult, and just as they return to the Sykes-Picot episode, we have an episode on the channel that talks about the Sykes-Picot issue. Ask us how many days ago did they return it? Because when Sykes-Picot happened, we never imagined that a division would occur. We never imagined that a unified state would exist, and we had great ambitions and hopes. In the early 20th century, and then after that, an arrangement appeared in it behind the scenes. We did not see it, and they actually divided it, and we are still living in the division, the Sykes-Picot division. It is possible that there will be a division in Syria now that we would have warned 100 years ago. Good performance of the situation that we are afraid of. Resolving this issue is that the entire people of Syria stand behind their leadership, and their leadership, because the people stand behind it, it must remain elected. It does not work. It is imposed on it. If there are many people who like the situation or do not like it, the situation, all people must remain in agreement on one leadership. This is a president and one leadership. This is comprehensive. There is no comprehensive parliamentary seat, local councils. There must be quick elections. We do not say 34 years, 5 years, or not open as well without clear parameters. No, it must remain very quick, because all these people will stop behind. One personality and two representatives, meaning alone. They are the ones who chose them so that they can sacrifice with them for the sake of this country and choose with some the decision that is in the interest of the country in general. And we are all provided with the minds that think about the issue. We came out, God willing, with a better result. The blessing of the Shura is a blessing if we have a society that thinks, not one that thinks. No matter how pious or pious this person is, it will never be useful. For the unity of the second need is very important. The return of the Syrians to the displaced as much as you can. The issue is very big. There is 1,000 outside a Syrian. If you return, they will do less in this country. I know that the economic situation is very difficult, the security situation is very difficult, but what is in the end God's destiny will not do. This is your situation. If you live in a time of need, defend your land, your homeland, and your need. Unity, or at least agreement. The Arab countries with weight in the region, so that we can gather a vision of unity in front of the Zionists, in front of America, or in front of the international community in general, the people. And God Almighty may preserve Syria and unite the ranks of Muslims. May God reward you well, and may God's peace, mercy, and blessings be upon you.